Hi, Michael Leckie and Mark Bowden here with more of our political spin series on Career Ask Me Anything. We got a lot of questions coming after the debate and other things that have gone on in different areas of global politics. And so we're addressing some areas of how politics and business interact. Here's a question we had. To what extent can rehearsed responses, in this case it was rehearsed debate responses, but to what extent can rehearsed responses accurately reflect someone's ability to actually govern? And what I would say in this case is, to what extent can my rehearsed responses accurately reflect how people feel about my ability to lead? Mark, what do you think here?
Yeah, so just like when you're presenting to an organization, if the situation that you're in is just a set of simple cogs and wheels, then how you can give a stock answer to a stock question is a really good indicator of how the machine will run. But in a complex situation of which governance of let's say here for the sake of the argument, the United States of America, it's a complex situation. You've got one country, but with many, many states that you have to bind together. Complexity is there, and many, many different people with different views. What we need to understand is, how do you manage that moment of real complexity? How do you manage that crisis moment? And the best indicator we have for that is to put you under stress and pressure in a Q&A situation, and maybe with your adversary arguing with you. How do you deal with that? Can you come up with a great answer off the top of your head? Does it make sense to your policy? Do you let go of all your policies? Do you suddenly become emotional and overly emotional? Are you not emotional enough? Do you not have that feeling for the people? We're trying to work out, how's it going to be? How will you cope with the next 4 years, given this stress and pressure test we put you under? And when we put this within a business and organizational situation, Michael, I would say your best moment in front of an audience is going to be the Q&A, because they know, or they suspect, or they hope you haven't prepared for the question that they have for you. They want to see, how much do you really know your subject? How much have you really thought about this business or organizational idea? What happens when a questioner throws a bit of a spanner in the works? How do you manage that? So look, I would say we're wanting to see the unrehearsed moments more than the rehearsed moments. Michael, what's your thoughts on this?
I totally agree. And I also think it's interesting that when I think, you remember you shared a story with me once, Mark, about watching, there were athletes, and I forget what they were, if it was Olympics or something, but they were training, and they were doing some movements with their legs, and they were real exaggerated. And you end up talking to them, it's like, why are you doing those movements and exercises? That's way beyond what you do when you're actually performing. And they said, well, we're practicing, we're rehearsing, we're not performing. And so we're going farther beyond, so that when we get it to do what we need to do, it's easier and comes more naturally. So here's what I think I've learned from working with someone like you for a long time, is that the rehearsal is good so you really feel comfortable in what you believe and think. And then you know it's going to come to you as you adapt it in the moment and answer the questions that you're asked. That you have that material, that content, that ammunition ready to go, and you can adapt it. If you're just struggling to get back to that piece, you're going to hesitate. And here's another interesting thing I think about, the big debate that we just had recently in the United States. A lot of people on the Democratic side of the equation were concerned with kind of the slowness of Joe Biden's, responses. Here's what I think is interesting that I've learned, and I've learned a lot of this again from you about the slowness, is that, yeah, there are times you're asked a question, you're like, in your brain, you're saying, oh, what the hell is the answer to that? I don't know what to think about that. I've got no thoughts on it. I'm a complete blank. And you can sit there and look like a deer in the headlights, or you can just take it in and say, okay, I'm going to look cool for just a moment here while I think about that. I'm going to acknowledge it and say, that is a good question. I'm going to sit here and let them know that I'm really thinking about it while I think about what is potentially a place for me to start. What is something I know that I can relate to and anchor that question, turn it to my advantage, take a piece of it that I can work with. I've got that now. I'm going to give you that. And while that's going on in my head, all I've done is sat there quietly and said, that's a good question. And they see me thinking. And they don't know that I'm thinking I'm half in a panic. They think I'm thinking about all the different brilliant things I know, and I'm pulling out the most brilliant one. And they have already juiced up how good my answer is going to be just by making them wait a little bit for it. So it's okay if you find yourself without an immediate answer, to go ahead and just pause and take that time to give it some thought, find something to anchor yourself with whatever answer it is you believe you're going to lead with. And sometimes it might not even be the absolute direct best answer. As long as it's not completely off the mark, people are going to say that's an interesting approach, an interesting spin. He took time to think about that. That's what I kind of think about it. Any final thoughts on that for you?
Yeah, look, I mean, I would just say, bringing it back to that debate performance, that slowness, which it might be calm and assertive, is all well and good, so long as your adversary has not given you the brand of cognitive decline. And so you kind of make sure that if you're being given a brand, that you don't take on those behaviors, or you do, and you, as we might say, hide in plain sight with that, and you make a special effort to reframe why you're slow, why you're thinking so hard, why you're doing that, and it's to the benefit of the audience. So look, there's always a spin, there's always a way to play these things, but you can't take the frame that your adversary has given to you and take on that mantle.
So would you actually say, if you're like, in this case, Joe Biden, you might say, you know, that's a great question, and I'm going to pause for a minute, and I want to give you a great answer. By the way, my opponent here will tell you I'm pausing because I don't know what to say. I'm actually pausing because I take the time to think before I speak.
Yeah.
With that in mind, here's what I think.
Exactly. So you're now reframing it, and you're getting a hit on the opponent with the reframe. Makes it very hard for them to use that frame again.
I like that. And I think that works perfectly well in business too. If you're up in front of a group trying to get a decision made and you know where they're coming from, you can quite casually take their toys away right in the middle of giving them what you want to give them and give yourself a distinct advantage. Great. That's great. Well, thank you for tuning in to our political spin here on Career Ask Me Anything. I'm Michael Leckie. This is Mark Bowden. Of course, you can send us your questions and again, comments in any of the whatever media you're seeing this on, whatever channel. You can put it in right there, or you can go to my website is where we take in the questions. There's a form for that. So michaelleckie.com/ask is a place you can put in those questions, and we will look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for joining us.
Lovely.